All right, so this will be part 2 on this Berco deal. We got it all painted pretty much, and we got all the parts in finally, and we're starting to reassemble some stuff. I mean, we done did some stuff, but we're starting to reassemble some stuff, and we fixed some problems, and we found some new problems, and so on and so forth. So hang loose, and we'll get into all what we're doing. So one thing, this pulley here was loose, the keyway was loose. So I found a oversized keyway at McMaster Car. So the factory keyway, I mean, it would just go in the shaft and you could shake it. It was pretty bad. But McMaster Car had some oversized keys. So we got some oversized keys, and it's actually a press fit. I had to tap it in. And now the pulley, it doesn't have, I mean, it's snug, but it don't have any play. So that saved us from having to do any kind of crazy stuff to that. I think the rest of the issues are all in the rocker table system. So Andrew cleaned the whole machine up nice, and we ended up with, Sherwin-Williams 2-stage epoxy, and we painted the whole machine. And we're gonna change the oil in the wheel head, we're gonna change the oil in the gearbox, but everything is here, and we're doing like sub-assemblies now. So let's go over here to the carts where we got everything laid out, and then we'll go over some of that stuff. All right, so we got, you know, these are the bases for the rocker, and this part is what bolts to the table. And then we've got these bearing housings that go in the bases, and that's what sets on the rockers. So the first bearing that I took apart, which was the farthest end bearing, it looked good, the grease looked good, but it looked like it had been over tightened some, because I could see some lines in the race, but you couldn't feel anything, but you could see it. But bearing 1 and 2, the grease was nasty looking. It didn't look like the end. The end was clean, nice grease. Number 1 and number 2, the grease was nasty and black. So I don't know what happened there, but number 1 and number 2 looked like the bearing had been tightened too tight in 2 different places. So, because I could see 2 sets of lines. So that was a little weird. I don't know what was going on there, but we got all of this stuff cleaned and painted just like we did the machine. Andrew got it all cleaned up pretty. He stoned the table where all of this stuff sits, because I mean, obviously we got mating surfaces, and so all of that stuff was stoned. The one thing we found, other than the rocker bearings, this whole mechanism right here is what, it's got 2 springs in it that make the table have pressure on the master plates, and this is what locks the table in the back position when you're not following a cam load. So in this assembly, pretty much everything in it was just trash. I don't really think that had anything to do with any grinding issues, I don't think, but anything's possible. But we bought all new parts that we could buy, and then like some of the stuff that wasn't available, we made it, or we, you know, like bushings, like the bushings that go in here were not available. They wasn't even a part number in the book. It didn't even, actually, the exploded view showed the bushing in the housing, but it didn't give it a part number. So you couldn't even buy the bushing. But luckily, we found bushings and got all that worked out. We had to modify them a little bit, but it wasn't nothing crazy. We bought new springs, the old springs, and I guess because it's over here on the left side where you're working the most, and it's not shielded anyway here. So all of the coolant gets all in here and just rots everything to death. So this shaft right here, and it's horrible. This shaft is what, so the handle on this side, the handle, what you rock the table back and lock it, and then there's a big block that goes here, and that's what locks it, you know, brings it up in the lock position. And so this rides in the bushings I was talking about in that main casting. So it's just, you can see how bad it is. I mean, it's just eat slam up. Even the splines are almost gone on this side. So here is the brand new shaft, and I mean, you can see the difference in the splines, how bad they are. So that little shaft right there was $840. Now I could have made one, but unfortunately we already behind 3 or 4 weeks on cams, plus we need to be working on the grinder and not making shafts. So I bit the bullet and bought that sapsucker, but I am not happy about it. But I just couldn't see putting it back together with it all eat up like that. It's just not good. But now the bushing and all that stuff, it fits really nice. So we're not gonna have no issue there. Another thing we found, so this trunnion, and this is the bearing assembly that sits in the spring that it's rocking on. So this thing has removable, so it's got needle bearings on it, and it's got removable races. And I don't know if you can see, so the bearings were absolutely locked down. The needle bearings, do I got one? Yeah. That's the needle bearing that was in it. I mean, the inside is completely packed with rust. I mean, you can't even see the bearings. And so nothing's been rolling, so it actually made bearing divots in the race. So we almost never got them suckers off, but we finally got them off, and I got the trunnion all polished up, and we got new ones, and so I got to press them on, and then we got new roller bearings to go on that. So pretty much that whole rocker system, the locking mechanism, it'll be just pretty much brand new, I don't think. The only thing we didn't replace in it was the main shaft and the handle you pull back, and they were okay, but pretty much everything else I think that was replaceable, we replaced it. So right this minute, that's what we're working on. We got to get this assembly back together, and once I get the assembly together, another viewer, I don't know, I think they're trying to make a cam grinder out of an OD grinder, so they wanted to see how this whole system works together. So we might show, once I get it together, I'll show how all of that works. But essentially the Van Norman is essentially the same way. This one is just a lot bigger and more robust, but the Van Norman system works very similar to this. So we're gonna pop all this together, and then once we get this thing assembled, then we'll bring you back and we'll look at some more stuff. I was packing the rocker table bearings, and I figured sometimes people don't know how to pack bearings, so I figured I'd show you while we were right here doing it, me and Andrew. So the goal is to get the bearing inside the cage. So the simplest way, I mean, you can use a bearing packer, right, but they just make a mess to me, which this makes a mess too. But the goal is to try to scoop that grease up into the cage, and as you keep forcing it in, you'll see it starting to come out the front side. And then you just move to a new location and you just keep pushing it in. And you know, as you go, obviously you'll have to pull some out, the excess. And like I say, it'll just fill the bearing right up. And then in a car, like this deal is a little different because we're trying to have corrosion resistance, and it's moving really slow, so there's no heat to melt the grease and get it everywhere. So we need grease everywhere to keep it from rusting. But like in a wheel bearing or a high-speed application, once the bearing's full, that's all you need. You don't need grease all over the place and 3 pounds of extra. It's not doing anything. It's just gonna sling it out of the way. It's like wheel bearings especially like trailer axles. I see people, they just packing them suckers full. They use them easy greasers in the center of the spindle, and they just keep packing grease in there, and it'll blow the seal out the back if you just keep on. But like, I pack my trailer bearings one time and they're good for 5 or 6 years. I mean, we went all the way to California and back, Texas and back, and I pulled the bearings out, just looked at them, and they still have plenty of grease in them, and the bearings look good, so it don't take nearly as much as you think it does. But anyway, that's how you pack a bearing. All right, so yesterday we got all the bearing assemblies for the rocker table built, and Andrew got them bolted on this morning. We're ready to set the bed down. And of course, we done scratched up and chipped the paint on the rocker table, but that's just part of life. So let's see if we can set this thing down. I'm putting a little bit of rust preventative between the mating surfaces just to try to help. I mean, they wasn't really rusty between them, but a little bit. We got a long way to go. You gotta get me lined up. I can't see down there. This one's off a little bit. There we go, kid. Look at that, better than brand new. So we were debating back and forth. So the way this table sits on, and the Van Norman's the exact same way. The drive belt, you can't get it on. There's not enough room between the bed and the pulley to get this belt in. So therefore, when this belt breaks, I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, I don't know what the official answer is, but what I come up with is because these lower bearing housings clamp the bearing with them loose, you can actually, take a small pry bar and slide the table over in the bearing housing, because it's like a clamshell. So as long as they're loose, I mean, it's a nice fit, but it will slide. So I slid it over enough to get the belt in, and I was gonna leave it that way, but the factory drawing and the way it was shows the bearing centered in the clamshell. And right now, I've got it pushed all the way to one side. So the bearing's still in the clamshell, but it's pushed the bearing housing is pushed all the way to one side. I don't think that'll ever be an issue at all, but I think we can push it back. And when we do have to change a belt, it shouldn't be any more than loosen 3 bolts and slide the table over, change the belt, tighten 3 bolts up, slide the table back. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna center the bearings back up like they're supposed to be. But why they made it like that is just super odd. If they'd have just offset that clamp system, then the table could have been over. And I mean, it don't take, like, literally I had to slide the table that far. I mean, a 1/4 inch, 3/16 of an inch to get the belt in and out. And why they didn't do that is beyond me. But anyway, so the belt's on, the table set down. We got to get all the bolts in the bottom anti-seized and put in and tightened up. And then once that's done, we'll be ready to put the lock assembly up on that keeps the table from moving. So we're gonna get all that going and we'll be right back. All right, so we got the bed, all that situated. We got the rocker table lock all back together. One thing that we did find, besides everything in the lock being wash slam out, is when we went to put it back on, it was like hitting, it wouldn't go all the way up flush. And so it's like down here, the table was kind of machined on an angle. Well, actually it's just casting, but there was some casting flash up in there and it was kind of holding it back some. And so it had been together. I mean, it ain't hurting nothing, but it was stopping it from setting down in there nice. So we ground that and got it smooth and all of that's happy now. So we're gonna go ahead and get the headstock back up here, the tailstock back up here before we put the splash guard on. The splash guard's got to get sealed to the bed so it don't leak. So as soon as we get the head and stuff back up here and clamped down, then we'll get the splash guard back on. So close up there. Yeah, we could have, you see how the, well, I don't know, the lock mechanism's pretty centered, but I can see a little bit of table. So we might could have left that table pushed over a little bit because there's a little bit of table behind it, but that ain't no big deal. Where's the clamps at? All right, so we're getting real close. I still got to finish this stud for the clamp for the tail stock. So I machined a new stud, but I still got to make the whole handle mechanism. But it ain't gonna be no big deal. I got all the stuff to make it. I just got to machine the handle and all. We still got a handful of things to put back on. We got a silicone to splash pan to the bed so it don't leak. Got to tighten up a few screws. I'm gonna change the oil in the headstock and the gearbox. Now, I think the biggest thing I got to do is I still got to replace these bushings and make the new engagement pin for the index plate. And so probably in the morning I'm gonna finish up a few things here, and then in the morning I'm gonna knock out these couple of projects, and I hope by the end of the day tomorrow that this grinder's grinding. I hope. We'll see, but like I said, there's still a few little things got to get put on, but we're getting really close, really close. So hopefully we'll be back to 3 or 4 cams a day instead of 1 or 2 cams a day here shortly. I may show you machining some of this stuff for this tomorrow. We'll just tie it all into this video, and probably doing this pin too, changing these bushings and this pin, but all right, that's enough for now. All right, so this is, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 days later. So we just constantly got problems with shipping and getting the right stuff. So we had some parts issues, we got all that sorted out, and then we needed to service all the fluids. And we had ordered, I had ordered the spindle takes a mix of 2 special spindle oils. I had ordered a 5-gallon bucket of each, and one of them, they just refunded me and didn't tell me that it wasn't coming. So one bucket was here, the other bucket wasn't here. And then when I realized we still needed another kind of spindle oil, we ordered it. And it was supposed to be here last Thursday. Today is Tuesday the 1st. Yeah, Tuesday the 1st. It was supposed to be here last Thursday. And then, of course, it got hung up in shipping. It didn't make it. We finally got it yesterday. Is that right? It come in yesterday? It come in yesterday. And so we got the spindle all filled up. And I still we had stole the follow wheel off of here because we had rebuilt another follow wheel on the Van Norman. But the follow wheel had, it was off of another grinder. It had a little run out in the OD. So we stole that one in the meantime till I had a chance to resurface this one. But I got this one resurfaced this morning, so was able to swap back. So everything's, well, I say everything's done. There's still a couple of little things that we need to finish up, but we machined a new lock. We made the stud. We made a nut, the handle, all of that deal. So now we got all that fixed for the tailstock. We put all new bushings in, made the new pin. We changed and put a heavy spring in the engagement pin. And just a FYI, I can't find the spring anywhere, so I had United Spring make me a little batch of them, and I had to buy 10 or 20 to get them. So if anybody needs a spring for their Berco, I got a sack full of them. But the spring that was in it was just way too soft. And I think that's where we was picking up some variation. But so it's all back together, everything's happy. Today is the first day I ground the cam on it. So we were seeing from the first lobe to the last lobe, we were seeing a couple of degrees variation. And I didn't like that. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. But since then, I've done the same checks on several other companies' cams, and I see the same issue. So this is not a me issue, it's a everybody issue. But having said that, I'm aware of it. We went through the whole machine, we touched all the surfaces that could have anything to do with any variation. I feel like as much as humanly possible. So what I did is, first thing straight off the gate, I ground the number 1 intake and I ground the number 8 intake, and I checked them. I checked the duration on both, and I checked the index from one to the other to make sure that it's in the right location, right? So Andrew will put this, so I just did a 2-lobe report so we can see where we at and make sure that everything is coming out like it's supposed to come out. So we did a number 8 intake and a number 1 intake, and Andrew will put this on the screen so you can see it too. So the number 8 intake is 262.76 degrees at 50. The number 1 intake is, it says exhaust 8, but I done it that way to get the angle between each lobe. So we know what the angle is supposed to be between 1 and 8. So I done it like this so it'll give us the angle. So that's why it says exhaust 8. but it's 263.02. So basically that's less than a quarter of a degree duration difference. And if you look at all the other numbers, I mean, the 100, the 200, the 300, the 400, they're all just within just tenths of one another. So I was really happy about that. The other thing, if you look at the 50 lift center line, it's 127.64. So the angle between number 1 and number 8 is 127 degrees. So we're within, you know, 5/8 of a degree at 50. And keep in mind that because of asymmetry in the lobes, you'll get some variation. So it's kind of, you know, they all should be in line, but it might be a slightly different angle, but they'll all be that same amount angle off, if that makes sense, because of the asymmetry in the lobe. So the angles are good, the duration's good, and obviously, you know, tomorrow we're gonna grind 16 lobes and 100% inspect 16 lobes, and I feel confident that we're gonna be good, but we are gonna check it. We still got a few things to finish up. We got to, this thing's got auto in-feed and it was disconnected when we bought it. So we still got to reconnect the auto in-feed. The button's broke. I got to order a button. But other than that, I think everything else is done. Some of the auto in-feed handles we got to put back on. But ultimately, I think everything else is happy. I think everything was in the video. So you've seen all the stuff we done to the machine. So once we get all of this 100% finished, then we're going to flip over and concentrate on the Van Norman. We're going to get the variable speed gearbox done. And I think I've come up with a way in the VFD. And I might have mentioned this a little bit, and we're going to do it to the Berco too, but we're going to use this as the guinea pig right now. But I'm pretty sure I come up with a way to vary the RPM with a mag switch. And so the way a CNC does is on the nose radius and the base circle, it goes fast, and then in the flank, it goes really slow. So I think I've come up with a way to make this manual grinder do that. And I think what that's gonna do is give us a lot better lobe to lobe accuracy. So we're gonna build that system on this machine and get it proven. And then once we get it proven here, then we're gonna implement that same system onto the Berco. And we're gonna have to change some stuff with the drive to make all that work. But once we get into this one, we're gonna do a frequency drive on the spindle. So the spindle's soft start and soft stop. It's gonna be variable speed spindle, and then we'll have a variable speed cam rotation, and it'll be able to vary the RPM depending on where it's at on the load. So I think that is gonna it's just gonna make a better product. And at the end of the day, we wanna make a better product. So that's the goal. I think now, I'm pretty sure everything is here for this job, except for the mag switches, the mag switch, and I think I've got magnets here, but I gotta get a mag switch and I gotta make a bracket. But I've got all the gearbox stuff, all the bearings, all the couplers, the VFD, the motor, some wiring, potentiometers. We got all of that stuff. So just as soon as we get caught up a little bit, it's probably gonna be a couple of weeks, but as soon as we get kind of caught up from being with only one grinder, we're gonna jump on this one and we're gonna get all this stuff knocked out. And hopefully that's gonna bring this one up to the 21st century, I hope. So anyway, I hope all that was interesting. If you got questions, or, you know, obviously I mean, I've done it now, so I know the ins and outs. So if I can help anybody, please let me know. But hopefully you enjoyed that. It was educational. Let me know. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.